Hey, friends. So, it's been a day or two since I sp- spoke on this post about the question in my mind about continuing. And I have, as I mentioned, I believe yesterday, continued to see some of the ways in which the questions that I wrestle with around how much time to devote to a practice like this one, or how much time and or energy is the right amount to devote to a practice like this. I've observed that some of that consideration, some of that questioning, is itself actually the distraction from the thing that I'm trying to accomplish, right? If I'm trying to make a change in my life and I have a couple of different, practices in my life or commitments that I feel like are kind of crowding out the thing I want to be doing more of. It's often that first impulse to change something or to eliminate something is one that we want to kind of be cautious about because I'm about halfway through this book, Immunity to Change, and I've spoken about it before, and it's a book that really talks about, we have these commitments, right? We say we want to make this change. Then we have behaviors that we exhibit that are in opposition to the thing that we want, right? That's column 2. Then we have another column of things that we identify as underlying hidden commitments. In other words, things we believe, think, want, don't want, that we're not aware of, but that are in conflict with the things we say, either to other people or consciously to ourselves, that we want. Over here we got things that are in contra, that are working against that. And they were described today in the section of the book I was listening to really beautifully as, like, if you don't know what these things are, they're like thieves that can run over to column 1 and just start stealing stuff, just grabbing it off the shelves and running, and they're totally unchecked. They can wreak havoc on our conscious and potentially very urgent, very earnest desires for ourselves or for how we want to show up in the world. But column 3 can really be like a group of thieves that runs unchecked until we take them from being unconscious to being conscious. And what I've found is, if you look at something and you say, I have this problem, I want to make this change, here's the first thing I'm going to do. A lot of times the first thing we say we're going to do is not actually something that would either illuminate and or dissolve a column 3 commitment, which is ultimately the root of the problem. So that first impulse of like, oh, I think I'm just going to quit doing my video post because I want to spend more time writing. Really? How much time does it actually take to do a video post every day? 15 minutes? 15 minutes plus 2 minutes for the description, or maybe a little more if I do an elaborate description. Let's say 20 minutes. Is a 20-minute commitment to a self-reflective process really the problem that stands in my way towards making a change in the direction of having a committed writing practice? Is that really the issue? I kind of doubt it. And that's not to say that it is that it's that would be right to just go on indefinitely doing a video post unless there's a strong motivation for doing that practice. If the motivator for that practice has dissolved and or changed, great, change the practice, eliminate the practice if we need to. But I'm reflecting on what I said a couple days ago and talking about like where that energy goes. And but over the last couple days, it showed up for me that like it would be so exciting to do this video post if I were also at the same time really maintaining a creative practice that felt consistent and that felt like it was, you know, really kind of like taking me to the deep places and really ongoing. You know, I've again talked about this a number of times over the last several years as I've been doing this post. I do really well when I've got a creative assignment, when someone has given me like, go play in this sandbox and write this show, you know, do the music for this, write a song for that. I do well with those assignments. When I don't have an assignment, I kind of just like do a little of this and then I do a little of that. And then I come back over here and do a little more of this. And it's, you know, overall there's plenty of you know, beautiful things that have emerged from that, and I can certainly point to some positives. But overall, I can also point to a sense of not as much movement as I know I'm capable of, and as I really kind of desire on some level, pretty deeply. So that's where all this is coming from. That's where this conversation with myself and with you is coming from. It's like, what is the thing that will bring me deeper into alignment with that, with those impulses that I know are there, but that also can get derailed by column 3 commitments to what? What are my column 3 commitments that are preventing creative work? Right? I could ask that question. If I've got, I want to do more, I want to have a consistent writing practice every day. What I do is I do lots of other stuff, and I make sure that, you know, I have lots of household duties, I have childcare duties, I have other practices that I maintain, I have just general administrative tasks that the household and my family and myself need to take care of. I've got certain other professional commitments that take time and that are scheduled. Those are kind of, you know, the immovable blocks of my week. Those are all the behaviors that are kind of in opposition to that. So that's all the stuff that's crowding out this. So what are the underlying commitments? What are the things that make it that are operative underneath the behaviors that distract or that take me away? Okay, so one thing that shows up is I'm committed to being able to do whatever I want when I want to. And it's a little bit of a weird one because obviously that's neither always true nor always desirable. I don't look at my calendar or my daily, you know, I don't look at my calendar for the day and say, well, at 1 p.m. I have this lesson, but I don't feel like doing that. I feel like going for a bike ride, so I'm just going to do that. You know, I don't actually live that way. I thrive on the structure that I've created for myself, and I thrive on the commitments that I've made. But there's a part of me that makes commitments to others more firmly than I make them to myself. In other words, I'll show up for an endless string of commitments to other people. But if my own writing time or my own creative time or whatever I put on the calendar for myself has to kind of get moved around, nudged, it's like, well, that's just me. I can move that. I can just let that, I can make that up later if I don't do it at the scheduled time. So this is an uncomfortable thing to acknowledge, because it's like what I see in that is my commitments to other people are more potent than my commitments to myself. That's not so great. Right? Like, so there's that. But that's a column 3 commitment that if I don't see that, if I can't pin that down and actually, as they say in the book, turn that from subject, which means it's like a film that's just stuck to my body and my face. It's stuck to my psyche in such a way that it colors everything I look at. All I see is that my commitment, when I look at the world, it looks as though my commitments to other people are more important to me than my commitments to myself. Not in a conscious way, but like those commitments out there that are to other people feel more important. These commitments to myself feel negotiable and rearrangeable as needed. They can be at the expense of or in service of the commitments that I make out there, which are real to other people and therefore solid. But if I go like this, now I'm looking at a human being who believes that commitments to other people are more important than commitments to himself. Now I'm seeing that out as a thing, as just like an operating system. You could just as easily design an operating system that says I only make commitments to myself and I don't care. I'm only committed to myself. I don't care about commitments I make to other people. That would be an equally viable way to live your life. I'm not saying it would be like positive or good, or that mine's positive or good, but there's nothing stopping anyone from having that as their operating system. But mine is that my commitments to myself are fluid and negotiable and malleable, and my commitments to others are really ironclad, are really important. So there's something for me to look at. Because, yeah, no kidding, that column is going to wreak havoc on this column. That's going to mean that no matter how many events I put on my calendar for myself to do the thing I want to be doing, I say I want to be doing, another part of me is going to just reach across and grab those things and drag them back in the direction of what really are the real commitments that I've made and that are more important, because somehow, let's go to column 4, somehow these mean more. If I'm doing these things, then I'm being more selfless. I'm being more in service. This is column 4, the big assumptions. I know I'm just like waving my hands at the screen, but I think you get the point. This is column 4 is big assumptions that are sort of like the outgrowth and the underpinning of these column 3 commitments. So in column 4, I would have to say, well, I'm being of more service if I maintain my commitments to other people than if I maintain my commitments to myself. Because maintaining commitments to myself are about me. Maintaining commitments to other people are about them. I mean, intellectually and experientially, I can tell you that that's bullshit. Because I know that much of what I provide in my service to others has come from the very, very strongest commitments I've made to myself, to the practices and the disciplines and the self-evolution commitments that I've made that have put me in a position to be of service. So I know it's bullshit, but part of me still believes that that's true. That it's actually true that commitments to other people are more important because that's how I'm really serving. So yeah. There's a lot to look at here. I feel like I just cracked the surface of this a little bit, but this is an interesting exercise to have done out loud, because I think, something's going on here. And I'd really just love to start to get a little more conscious of how this all works. Thanks for watching, people. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.